welcome, and I'm here to talk today about acceptance and belonging and what that means to us here in Brixton as we find ourselves in this newly post-gentrified landscape. Beyond racial identity, urban regeneration has huge consequences on our sense of belonging. It's a path that's been well documented in many American cities. In Boston, there's a district called Sobo, which is kind of fairly similar to how we are here, and also in New York, more famously Harlem and Crown Heights, where rapidly changing demography is causing us to question who belongs and what is it actually that we belong to now. Our transition to this point, I believe, started around 4 years ago. Those of you that are local know that here we are no strangers to uprising if the balance of tolerance and fairness is disrupted. So 4 years ago, one August evening, I was sitting watching news feeds, distressing news feeds of disturbances popping up all over London. There were buildings on fire, there were bricks being hurled, there was chaos, smoke. It was upsetting to see. Something different was kind of happening outside my window at the same time. A gaggle of teenagers trotted past in Halloween masks. And they were a gaggle, they weren't a gang. They didn't have that pumped up energy of a campaigning spirit. They were excited. It was as if they were going to a party or, perhaps to the park, not to take part in the destruction of their neighbourhood. I was upset, I was angry, confused. Where was their sense of belonging in that moment that they didn't recognise these streets as their own? And ripping them up was a reasonable form of expression. What was it about my connection and love for this community that was so different to their disaffection from it? I thought about it. It was troubling me. I felt indignant and I wanted to understand them better. And the only difference I could grasp was that I feel hugely valued by this community. And today, more than any other, I feel privileged, extremely privileged to have a voice that is heard. That's not always been the case for me. So I know exactly what it's like to have a voice that isn't understood. You feel that you don't belong. I was born about 25 miles away from London in a small suburban town in the early 60s. At 3 months old, I was fostered into an all-white family. Everyone around me was white. I was different. And that was my childhood until the age of kind of 15. More significant than skin tone was that everyone around me had that essential sense of belonging that comes with shared heritage and majority. 3 times a year, I came up to London and I visited my birth family. In this place, I was also significantly different. With my English sensibilities and the strangeness of my Ghanaian heritage was as intangible to me as it was to most of the white people that normally filled my life. I was a stranger everywhere. I was an anomaly. And I understood that nobody could share my unique perspective on the world, and that I had quickly had to learn how to find to find a voice that could be recognised. My tools for doing this, well, I learnt to appreciate everybody as an individual. I learnt to decode and understand their motivations by really appreciating their backstories, their unique stories, what had shaped them, what had brought them to this place. I had to tackle how to belong from the bottom up. And it brought me to a place where I was actually searching, I was making a search for primary empathy. And the place I found that was under the skin. And under the skin is where I found my voice. So in realising that, I found my profound connection to the children, those children, that night. So a few days on, after the scene outside my window and on the television, after the aftermath of a violent few days, we collectively were kind of huddled in conversation about how to try and find a positive step forward from that those awful few days. And in one of those conversations, someone who's extremely important to me, a dear friend, a much-loved counsellor, yes, they do actually exist, a champion of our community, and we talked about what was fundamental in making us all tick. And we settled on love, respect, and belonging. And it was something that I had realised was so tragically missing in our collective nurturing of those children that I'd watched outside my house earlier in the week. So we decided that we were going to put together a response that would simply put some positive energy back on the street. So I gathered people, they gathered other people, and we got together to talk about what was important to communicate and how to do it with limited time and resources. It wasn't the easiest of discussions. We all wanted to own the solution, and it was a slightly unseemly evening of us kind of beating each other over the head with our creative egos. But at some point, we stopped because we all wanted to find a solution, and we desperately wanted something to happen. The intention was all there, it was all good. So we stopped, and we decided that we needed a slightly different process. So we listened to each other. We put down telling, we listened to each other. We looked at the skills around the table, we shared the tasks, and we created. And this was the result. There we go. There was more to it than that, actually. Jump to the second slide, but never mind. If you can just imagine that there is also We Love in front of that, then you'll kind of get the point. There we go. Thank you. So, We Love Brixton. The day itself was a platform for everyone to come together and to share their thoughts on belonging with whatever expression was best for them. So we sang, we danced, we shared poetry, we talked a lot, and we found a voice that was coherent and resilient beyond age, beyond gender, and beyond heritage. And we shared our pain and responded to that with huge amounts of dignity and strength and respect for each other. So We Love Brixton has become an iconic image for this community and a really important message. I mean, we're all familiar with the concept of I Heart. I Heart is everywhere. I Heart New York. I Heart Mickey Mouse. And indeed all over town, following this, there were I Heart Brixton stickers in every window. But what was missed in that I Heart was what happens when you replace I with we. It's a powerful transformation of meaning. We is to embody the spirit of this town as it is and always has been. It is to embody the spirit of acceptance. Everyone can find their tribe here. That's why we love it. And it's here I found a true sense of belonging. So 4 years on, and as with those communities I was talking about earlier, Crown Heights, Harlem, we find ourselves in this post-gentrified moment. And the very mechanism that promised to protect and develop us now threatens to undermine that very spirit, that spirit of acceptance. And we're all struggling to see where we fit. So, yeah, if you can afford it, you can slurp a fancy cocktail, you can eat burgers, and you can chow down on expensive street food. But there are brutal consequences to our sense of belonging, which are cultural, social, and economic. We work with these contradictions every day. Sometimes we engage with them, sometimes we sidestep them, because it's really difficult to pay attention to the arguments that are least attractive to you and you fear the most. Really difficult to do more sometimes than oppose or defend. That's why, me more than anybody, that's why we all love that little like button on Facebook. It's a quick hit. You can get it out of the way. But as long as we stand behind our heroes and boo-hiss our villains, we're standing in the way of finding that fundamental understanding of each other, finding that place of powerful, universal empathy, which I believe has the power to change the way we develop communities, we protect culture and nurture belonging. Brixton is our kaleidoscope. There's a convergence of difference here. As Stephanie said, it's a salad bowl. If we choose to look through it and appreciate every fractal, I believe that we can create a community that reflects all of our values and addresses all of our needs. That search for primary empathy that I had to make as a child every day is now so relevant to us and everybody living in a post-gentrified community. We have to think about this stuff. We all want to be valued. We all need to be loved, and we all want to belong, just as I did. So what I'd like you to do now, it's first up, I can play with you, so that's great, is turn to your neighbour. Hold their hands. Yeah, slightly uncomfortable. You may not have met each other, but now it's a fine time to do that. Because this stuff, this way of being, this way of seeing lives in the very small stuff of building and shaping the world around us every day. Don't let go of your neighbour's hands. Look into their eyes. Enjoy it. Little oxytocin rush happening here. Great stuff. Okay. Look at each other. Don't look at me, look at each other. In this moment, be curious enough to notice them. Be brave enough to really listen to them. And human enough to make that connection under the skin. I believe if we can appreciate each other's stories and find a level of acceptance that is underneath, then we can build communities where we all belong and we can all be heard. Thank you very much.